What's up, everybody? This is Zach and Rock from SquadCast.
And we help professional podcasters record remote interviews in studio quality.
Today, we're here to talk about how to be a great podcast guest. So the 3 best ways to be a great guest are consider your environment, understand expectations, as well as familiarize yourself with the equipment. So the first part, considering your environment, Zach.
Yeah, you want to be in as controlled an audio environment as possible. So if you kind of sit still for a few seconds, you can just close your eyes, listen, and you'll start to hear things like ticking clocks, your neighbors, cars driving by, the refrigerator, your dogs walking by. I mean, we're outside, so you don't really want to be in an environment like this. You want to be more in an environment like this, as sound treated as possible. I know that that's kind of unreasonable for lots of folks, but ask around. You may have access to a recording studio at somebody's college or at a studio in your local city, or just small rooms without hardwood floors, dogs put away. I record at home all the time. Depending on what microphone and equipment you're using, that can be pretty easy to dial in. You just want to consider it and make sure you're compensating for any environments that may contribute to reducing the quality of your audio or distracting in the quality of your audio.
Perfect. So point number 2 is to understand expectations. So a lot of times podcast hosts, they have a workflow, and so they'll want to communicate that to you. But what's some of the best ways that a guest can understand and actually follow through with those expectations?
Yeah, if all your all of your hosts did was schedule with you and then you're going to show up kind of walking into it blind, I would recommend in advance of that asking them like, hey, how's this going to go? What can I expect? About how long is it going to be? There's lots of little details that can help put your mind at ease so that way you can focus on the conversation when the time comes. And that's the whole reason we're doing this. So we don't want those expectations. We want those to be upfront and well known so that way you can have that great conversation.
That's great. And so the final point is to familiarize yourself with the equipment. Now, we understand a lot of you guests aren't necessarily, up with all the technology that's involved in creating a podcast, nor do you really have to be. You really only need a few things, but what's the best way that a guest can familiarize themselves with the equipment so that that conversation does go great when they are recording?
Yeah, just like basic stuff, restarting your computer, making sure there's not other people on your network, like streaming on Netflix or something like that. There's basic stuff there. And I will say, if you're using software to record, like we offer with SquadCast, permissions. That's the number one thing. Just try to get in that session in advance, make sure all your permissions are dialed in, and then you're ready to go when the time comes. Even if that's 5 minutes in advance, that can save a lot of anxiety with trying to dial that in once you're connected and kind of clock is ticking on your interview. So if your host also, one of the best practices that we recommend and some of the podcast OGs do is they'll send equipment to their guests in advance. So if you got a package from like MikeReynolds.com or from the host themselves with like a fancy Sennheiser headset, plug that in, make sure Windows drivers, whatever, are happy and that it's showing up as an active device. That way you're not having to do that stuff in advance of the interview. And that way, again, you can focus on the conversation.
And this is a good point to bring up with mic technique. So one of the things that, for us that, being new to podcasting, we didn't understand how difficult it can be to have proper mic technique. And so you really kind of want the microphone like close to your face and you don't want to move away from it, which can happen in a conversation. So just something else to be mindful of when you're familiarizing yourself with that equipment. So thank you, Zach, for that. So those are the 3 best ways that you can be a great podcast guest. I'm Rock and this is Zach and we're SquadCast.
Yeah, and we help record remote interviews in studio quality. So if your host is offering to have an interview on a platform that you're not happy with the quality on or you've used in the past and it's given you, lower quality, then, suggest them, hey, check out SquadCast FM. I want to sound as good or better than you. I don't want to sound much lower than you or like I'm recording from prison or something like that over the phone. We both want to sound good, and that way, the audience will focus on the message and not the lower quality audio. So if you're interested in that, check it out at squadcast.fm. Thanks.